Well, let me ask you this: like, do you think there's too many replays on the broadcast?
All right, welcome to the latest episode of Game Day Glare. I'm Lance. I'm with E. This is the podcast for sports videographers. How you doing, E?
Good. But I want to hear about you. Like, how was the first game? How was the opener at the Bell Center?
So it was really, really good. We had a tribute to Ken Dryden. So the fans really liked it. Actually, what was nice at the end, we had alumni who played with him. So they were all on the bench. And then obviously I don't know if you guys seen, but they shone a light on the net and they had his mask on the net for the moment of silence. So that was really, really good. And then we went to the game presentation. We tried some different stuff. They had an FPV flying around through the crowd. So that was really cool. And what was neat about that is...
So was it going live to the scoreboard?
Yeah, it was going live to the scoreboard. But I didn't know you could do this. The feed to the scoreboard was coming out of the guy's goggles. So it wasn't even like, so it's what the guy was seeing coming out. It was a little tricky because obviously there's so much cell phone reception and that. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, he did it perfectly, but there was some times where the image looked a little pixely, but it's coming from his goggles, which is kind of crazy. I was thinking, because I asked him, I said, is it going to be like a remote frequency from the gimbal, from the drone that's going to go to the scoreboard? Like, how are you getting out there? And like, no, it basically was like they plugged in an out wire from his goggles and that went to the scoreboard, which is pretty neat. And what else? I was on the ice, so I had all the players skate to my camera, stop and wave, which sounds really good, right? It's like, oh yeah. Except some players like didn't want to listen and they just kind of like skated and veered off right away when they're supposed to stop, and they're supposed to switch to another animation and stuff like that. So that's always tricky. And when you're the camera that's filming it and you're told like stay stuck, you kind of stay stuck. And then one time I did pan to follow a guy and he cut the other way and I lost him and had to come back. So I was not happy with that because I felt like I really messed up. But it turned out that they had switched me already to a graphic, so no one saw that. But I did not know because of my camera, my tally was still on. So I was like, oh my God, I messed up. I messed up the whole opener,
Yeah.
Because it's always stressful. You want it to be so perfect. But I mean, the reactions were really good. We had a crazy game. We came back, we scored with like a minute left in the game and then we won in overtime. So the way I look at it is like people remember the Ken Dryden mask and that, and then they remember Cole Caulfield's overtime goal or Demidov's tying goal. So anything else in between that might have went wrong, they kind of have forgotten by now. A couple Molson X's or help make you forget all that. So, but it was really, really fun. And man, it's hard when I look back. It's my 23rd year there, my 23rd season. And it's like, I don't know where the time went, like I filmed so much hockey and I remember so many moments, but opening night is always like the one moment of the year that you always remember.
Well, you sound very old right now, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't listen. During those moments when all the adrenaline's running, I don't feel that old, But when there's always like a newer kid or someone who's new, and they're always like so excited it's their first time, and they ask you how many times have you been here, and when you tell them, they always kind of look at you like in shock. But then I tell them like I started doing this job when I was 10, so it's okay, still young. But anyway, today's topic now is kind of based on that because a lot of people posted a lot of clips from all these home openers, from all the hockey events that's been going on. I mean, you were talking about slow motion. So we want to talk about, how to use slow motion properly, how to kind of master that edit, because slow motion goes really well with speed ramps and that, and you're a big fan of speed ramps and that. So we thought we'd kind of get into that and kind of explain when we'd use slow motion, how we do it, why it's very important, how it builds intensity and all that. So that's where we kind of want to go. But before we go into that, are you doing anything? It's been all about me, so I want to throw some love back to you, E. Nothing, just been YouTube. What's new on your YouTube channel then? Maybe testing anything new or anything new exciting happening on Beyond the Game?
No, not much. No, it was actually a week off in terms of like posting videos. I was just more focusing on the business, and on like personal stuff in my house and things like that. So on the YouTube front, for me, there's things happening in the back end, but in terms of the channel itself, other than a few shorts here and there, yeah, nothing to report. Sorry.
Well, I have a question for you on about the channel though. As a YouTuber, do you find it challenging to either work on the company or work for the company? Because it is hard to spread out your time. Either you're creating videos and that, or you're doing the back end stuff. So how do you kind of juggle that? Because maybe we have some listeners who are going through the same stuff as you.
Yeah, well, I think it's the struggle of any freelancer or business owner. It's that's yeah. That doesn't matter whether you're on YouTube or you're a plumber or whatever you do. It's always the biggest hurdle is to find the balance between just doing the work and finding more work, or more like creating more revenue. So yeah, I'm far from an expert at it. I've obviously had ups and downs, and it's for me, I'm very much a trial and error type of guy. So yeah, I work on it, I get better at it, and sometimes I try something that doesn't work. But the best thing is just to have a schedule and a structure, and dedicate like specific days to producing videos and specific days to work on the business. That's the idea in theory, but like in real life, sometimes if a video is not ready on the day that it should be done, am I going to wait next week, or am I just going to finish it the next morning, and then therefore everything kind of suffers from it, or something happens in your personal life and you take care of it, and there's all sorts of variables that can mess that plan up, but that's the idea.
Well, it's challenging, right? And I think like blocking time to do that stuff, and giving yourself deadlines definitely helps, because it is hard when you own your own company or you're a freelancer. Because if you give yourself the opportunity to push it to tomorrow, you will.
Mm.
So, at least I will. So I try harder.
No, that's
Like,
true.
it's something I've been working on now. When I come home with memory cards, I put them in right away, and I try and work on that project as soon as possible while I'm fresh, while I'm into it. And I feel like that's changed my workflow a lot too. All right, now let's get back to slow motion.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you a question. Now, when you're using slow motion, can you explain a lot of people like see this shot and it's like a wow shot, but can you explain the why you'd want to use slow motion to get the wow?
Well, I think to me, I use slow motion the same way I use special effects, or visual effects or sound effects thing. It's to accentuate or amplify a moment. So if there's something cool that happened, especially that's visually interesting, you want to slow it down, and just like make the most of that moment just before you go back into a normal sort of full speed action, especially these days where everything is fast action, fast cuts, blah, blah, to all of a sudden slow everything down. Obviously, it's because there's something very important happening at that moment and you want everybody to see it. So that's kind of my approach to slow motion. Like less is more in a way. And obviously there's different types of videos. Sometimes you can make a video all slow motion and it can work as well. Probably not ideal for social media, unless it's just like a one clip situation where it's just like one play, and you're just like building up the excitement of the finish of that play by just keeping everything in slow motion. But yeah, at the end of the day, the idea is to amplify something great happening.
Well, yeah. And I feel like it helps build the connection. When you're using a slow motion clip with a purpose, it gives the viewer time to feel that moment. And that's the tricky part, is when to use that moment. So maybe we can go through like sports one by one. Like I can give a sport, you can give a sport. So I'll start with hockey, since we were talking about hockey before.
Probably I would start by taking a sip of water or something.
Yeah, I'll take a sip of my coffee. Okay.
Sound like
So I'm getting choked up. I'm
old
getting
man
emotional.
LeBerge.
That's it. I'm getting emotional. That's what it is. No. So hockey. Okay. If I'm looking for a nice slow motion just off the top of my head, I'm thinking right away like player entrances are a great place for slow motion shots to kind of feel that intensity before the game starts. And since I have a soft spot for goalies since I live with one. My son's a goalie. I love goalie saves in slow motion. That's like, for me, you can't get a nicer shot, especially because goalies look so cool with all their kit equipment, all their custom masks and all that. So when you get a nice slow motion big glove save or big blocker save or pad save, and that, I feel like you could feel the moment, you could feel the intensity. So those are two of my examples I use for hockey. What sport do you got that you want to talk about?
Well, I can talk about basketball. Because what I like with basketball specifically, like I'll do a lot more like speed ramping than just having like a clip in slow motion. Because I like certain parts to be faster, definitely. Like for example, if someone's shooting a 3 point, I like to slow down them taking the shot, but I don't want to be watching the ball going. The longest distance a ball in basketball can pretty much do. Um, in 20% speedless, so that's going to take forever, and that's not very exciting. So usually I'll slow down the player shooting, then go back to full speed, probably even a little bit faster on the actual on the ball, like traveling, and then as it hits the net, I'll slow it down again so that it's kind of in slow motion, hits the back of the net, and see kind of that backspin and the net movement. So just basically fast forwarding through the boring parts and keeping the good parts in slow motion. Or sometimes it's just because like a good impact, especially if there's like a beat drop or a good sound effects happening, like it's much better to have it in full speed. So maybe like, for example, a dunk. Someone will come up to the basket as they're jumping. I'll probably start the slow motion. So in the air, they're in slow motion. But as soon as they make contact with the rim, that's when I'll go back to full speed so that contact actually happens in full speed, and you can get the sound effects that goes with that. That's usually that's why I more do like speed ramping than just like full on
Slow mo.
slow mo. Sorry for the mics.
It's okay. All right. So next sport, I'll talk about baseball. Now, for baseball, one slow motion shot that I really like is when guys are getting ready, like when they're adjusting their gloves, twirling the bat, picking up the ball, tipping the cap, and that. I find those close up shots in slow mo for baseball, which is a slower sport. Like baseball is a different sport, right? You got a guy pitching, a guy batting, and then someone else reacts to what happens. So I feel like slow motion is a good way to build up that intensity, and with those slow motion, strap of the gloves, the elbow guard, stuff like that, I feel like that really works. And my personal favorite is I love when they show slow motion pitching. Like when the guy gets up and he's about to do it, and then you can speed ramp it after. But I feel like just before when he cocks back his arm and all that, you could feel the intention, you can feel the emotion. So in baseball, those are two of my favorite things. And obviously, I mean, you can never go wrong if you do a slow motion of a guy's home run swing, or kind of when he tosses his bat after. Those are always great shots. But for me personally, I like the close-ups of the hands, the gloves, the bat, and then of course the pitcher.
No, that's cool. And yeah, well, actually, I can move on to like I was gonna say soccer, but I think like another sport like volleyball is kind of similar in the way that like I was saying earlier about basketball, like the impact, like if someone in volleyball like smashes the ball real hard and scores that way, like you want to see the ball actually, you want to see the impact in full speed, see like feel the impact and see the speed that comes with it. So that part I would definitely keep full speed, but to see them jumping and making that actual motion, that's what I want to see in slow motion. And soccer is a bit similar, where when you're scoring, like I want to see that goal going in full speed. But what happens before, whether it's just like a little fancy dribble or just like, making yourself available to score, like things like that, I want to see in slow motion. So with these sports, I found like it's the before that's more not interesting, but like spectacular. Like it's the little dribble that got you free. It's the jump, the pass that got you open for a smash. It's these things that I want to see in slow motion. But the actual motion of scoring, is actually better in full speed because it needs that impact and that intensity.
Well, that's where, the marriage between slow motion and speed ramping really comes in effect. And like if I look at football, say, you have a running back and he's cutting and breaking down a player in slow motion, that looks really awesome. But when you get that impact of a linebacker's hitting him, you want that impact in full speed. So you can add a nice sound effect. You can feel the power of that crunch. So it's like you got to find that fine line between when to slow mo and when to speed it up. And football, honestly, there are so many plays where you have the opportunity to do that. I mean, you have a quarterback that steps back and throws a 30-yard pass. Well, you can start with his pass in slow mo, and then you speed ramp it, bang, slow mo to the guy catching it. So I feel like football too probably has the most versatility in all of the sports to use slow motion properly and to then add a speed ramp too, because there's so many aspects of it. You have guys lining up on the line especially when linemen collide in slow motion, that looks really awesome. Like, cause you could see the grunting, you could see muscles flexing, you could see all that movement happening. So it really helps the viewer feel that moment. But then when you got a guy who's blowing down the sidelines who got a pass and you kind of speed ramp it up a bit, yeah, he's motoring.
Yeah, I was gonna say for football, like I think slow motion helps to put on display like good defensive actions, because other than a sack, like you said, like linemen like doing their thing, or whether it's a DB like doing a great job of making sure that the catch doesn't happen by like putting their hand out at the last second, like things like that in full time sometimes you don't really notice, or you don't notice how impressive that athletic sort of ability was, and to see in slow motion, you're like, oh yeah, that's a great defender, or that offensive lineman is working really hard when in its blocking, or he saved the quarterback's ass, and things like that, which you don't always notice in full time or when everything's moving. So it's one of those sports where the off the ball action in slow motion becomes much more impressive.
And what helps too is the different angles that we can get as sports videographers to capture those intense moments. Because if you're just watching a broadcast, you're not going to see the fancy footwork up close or in slow motion. Maybe on the replay you will, but it's usually a safe wide shot where, when we're showing that, we could really zoom in. We can give a different angle of it, and we can give a different perspective of that. And that's where you use the slow motion to enhance it. But now you brought up some real time stuff, right? Like real time
Always do.
Clips.
I'm real.
And there you go. So with real time, you got to kind of work it in where you can work that slow motion and then bring it back to real time. And that's the tricky part. That's the part that takes a lot of practice, I find, to get really good at it, because we've all seen videos where it's either too much slow motion and becomes dull, or too much speed ramping where it becomes too much. So how do you kind of pull it back a bit in your edits when you're using both? Like, how do you is it you're going with the music of the beat? Are you trying to get the viewer to feel something? What is your mindset when you're doing that edit? Or you just kind of go with the flow because you're real?
Yeah. I kind of probably more go with the flow, but it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. I think it's more of to me, it's the idea to slow down to amplify something. So I do it when there's something worthy of being amplified. Like that's what it comes down to. It also has to fit with that moment, with the music and everything. But yeah, if everything aligns for me to do it, then yeah, that's how I do it. Like I don't overthink it either. Like it's not like we're talking about, especially if we're talking about reels and things like that. It's not something that you want to. It's not like there's a script and I'm overthinking every move and every second. But yeah, if I see something great that's gonna look better in slow motion, I'll do it. But I'll try to find a way to make sure that the before, during, and after all sort of make sense with each other. And yeah, go from there. And if not, then what's the Control Z?
Control Z. I feel like broadcast has kind of tamed us to a speed. When you're watching a sport, you're used to seeing that speed that you see on TV. So anything that you see on socials that's off of that speed, either faster or slower, I find is eye-catching, because your brain is recognizing like, hey, this isn't at regular speed. And I kind of work with that. Like, when do I want to catch someone's attention more? and when do I want to catch it a little less, or when, like,
Mm.
you know, when I want to catch it less, is like I come back to regular speed.
Well, let
At
me
least
ask you this: like, do you
yeah.
think there's too many replays on the broadcast?
Sometimes yes. It's really tricky, right? Because every game is so different. So some games are boring. In
Yeah,
some games, there's not much happening. So you got to find things to replay. And there's other games where it's so exciting and there's nice goals and nice hits that sometimes you can't even show all the replays. So it's very, very tricky. In a broadcast on TV compared to in house, so say in a game, so when I work in the building, there's a lot of replays we don't have a chance to show because we
mm-hmm.
have to show the referee making a penalty call after, or they have to cut to a sponsor and stuff like that. On TV, yes, they show way too many replays. They show guys drinking. Oh, he's drinking orange Gatorade today. He usually drinks purple. Like they show way too much stuff that we don't need to know. But when you're in a building, it's very hard to show all the replays you want to show because you just don't have the
Yeah,
time because
yeah.
you're recording to a live audience. Where TV, you have the time. They'll make the time to show that, and they kind of bank that stuff too. You know,
But
there's
sometimes I just feel like there's, yeah, because now there's, I don't know, fucking 15, 20 cameras, different angles, reverse angle, inside the goal angle, the attached to the goal post, all these different things. So when there is a nice goal or a touchdown or whatever the case may be, there's just, they're gonna play like a replay of like a series of like 7 or 8 different angles at different speeds and things like that. And I get it, like you're making the most of it, and oh, let's see it from this angle and that one. But to me, I'm more of a, let's move on, and that's. I feel like sometimes it's just too much. Like, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just
it
me.
varies. It varies with the sport. Like football, you have time for a lot of replays because you have every play is what 10 seconds,
Mm,
and then you have 45 seconds in between plays. So the broadcasters are trying to fill up that time. Hockey, basketball, it's different. You know, you get a whistle, there's a jump ball, there's an inbound, or there's a face off. Sometimes you have 20 seconds in between. Sometimes you have a commercial break, which is 2 minutes. So it really different. As where baseball, you have a lot of time because there's always, well, I mean, now it's a little sped up with the pitch clock and that, so they are getting better. But before you had guys who could take like 45 seconds before they pitch a ball, and guys are just
mm.
kind of looking for stuff so they can cut to a quick replay, come back. Um, anyway, every sport has its own milieu, I guess. So back to what I was saying before is I try to make it flow where I want my viewer to feel something, and I try to pick the best possible points to come in slow and then go out fast, or come to real time. And that's where, like, depending on what music I'm listening to, also, I feel like that really helps too. If you can emphasize those motion switches on a beat or on a sound effect or something, they really, really help you punch a little bit more. Should we talk about like the technical breakdown? Because I know we've gone over this tons of times, but people still seem to have problems on how to get proper slow motion. So I'll let you explain your go about it because you're a 120 guy. I know.
No, I haven't shot in 120 in a while, actually. But well, I haven't shot in a while. But yeah, both. Um, yeah, well, speed ramping. I can only speak to get technical about it, more about Premiere Pro, because that's what I use. But I shoot. Let's say I'm shooting in 60 frames per second. I'll edit in 24 frames per second, and then by going into the my clip and changing the, I don't know what it's called. There's like a little icon and effects icon, and then in there I'll select speed, and therefore after that I can put like keyframes on my clip, and they're going to be like speed keyframes. So I'll be able to pinpoint the time where I want to slow it down, put a keyframe there, bring down the speed. Usually if I'm filming at 60, I'll go as low as 40%, and which is kind of the lower you can go without losing quality. And also I'll stretch that transition a bit. So, well, sometimes I don't because it's on the beat or something. but most of the time I'll stretch it so it's a smooth transition, and then I'll do another keyframe when I want to ramp it back up, and so on. There might be several in the same clip, but yeah, that's usually the way I go. I go for it. If it's like a hard switch, maybe instead of like using keyframes, I'll just make a cut and then change the speed of that entire clip, because that's faster and easier to adjust. But yeah, that's pretty much the standard. So like the way I do it in terms of like storytelling is, like I said, like it's going to be like specific moments first of all, like the big moments, the big highlights. But then when I fill up the gaps, maybe especially if it's like a close-up shot of action, like where you don't even see faces, like you only see feet moving. Like let's say it's a dribble at soccer, or a tackle, like a slide tackle, something like that. Just like maybe that one I'll put in slow motion. Like there's definitely going to be like little slow motion clips here and there. Not necessarily speed ramping, just a little clip here and there, just to change the pace. Or like type of stuff you were describing earlier, like someone, a facial reaction, something emotional, things like that. But yeah, that's pretty much my standard I don't know, protocol. What about you? Do you do anything differently?
So I usually shoot in 60. 120 I rarely use. I don't need to ever slow anything down to 20%. I feel like 40 is good enough. So I was thinking while you were talking, I'll tell you guys a little secret. I still use Final Cut 7 shortcuts in my Adobe Premiere. So when I have a slow motion clip, Command J, boom, put it to 40%, nice and easy. I just thought I'd share that because you
Well, I
were
think
talking
that's my
about it.
shortcut too. I think it's like one of
Yeah.
the,
Is
because
that
I
the
think one of
official one?
the, well, I'm pretty sure now that's the default
Oh, okay.
thing on Premiere. I think I could be wrong, but if it's not, uh, when you do go like in the keyboard setups or shortcuts, whatever it's called, like there's like presets, and one of them is like the Final
Is
Cut
that
7.
okay? So I still use those because that's what I grew up on. So I still use those shortcuts, and it's easy because we switch computers every couple of years, use other systems. It's easy to just have those. The only other thing I would suggest is, depending on what you're filming and lighting, of course, is boost your shutter a bit. Uh, when I know I want to slow mo, because it makes it a little bit more crispier, and I want the image to stand out a little bit more and be a bit sharper. So I will just boost my shutter a bit. But shooting at 60 is fine, and I always edit on 24, which is strange because I used to do a lot of broadcasts, which was always 30. And actually, right now, I'm actually working on some TV spots from home, and I had to put like a timeline in 30. And I was thinking, like, I haven't put a timeline in 30 in a long time. Well, 2997, sorry, is the actual broadcast one, but I haven't put that in a long time. But 24 is my go to timeline, especially when I'm doing slow motion and shooting in 60.
And
Um,
do you
there is
sometimes use S and Q when you're filming?
no, I never use S and Q. I don't use S and Q because it doesn't capture audio. And I would rather have the audio in case I want to use that shot later on in real time too, right? Because you could use that 60 frame. You don't have to slow everything down. I just shoot it as a safety in case I want to slow it down. Now, I was thinking something when you were saying about your keyframing technique. Now, before I knew how to keyframe, when I was a beginner, and this might work for some people if you want to do a fast, like a slow motion and a hard stop into real time, is I used to just cut my clip and then cut my clip at both ends and slow down the middle or speed up the middle part. So it was like a hard stop. And you know what's funny is I've been noticing that a little bit more on Instagram, and that not everybody's speed ramps are as smooth because they're looking for that impact. And plus, you don't have a lot of time to edit, so the actual speed ramp itself takes a little bit more time to kind of, especially when you curve it a bit and you go nice and smooth. Where the hard cut actually sometimes works. So it saves a lot of time too. So depending on your edit, depending on your music, you could do that hard cut one too, which I haven't actually used in a while, but I think I'm going to because that used to be my go-to for football highlights. So when I was a kid doing DVDs back in the day, that hard cut from like full speed to slow motion, then back to full speed, everyone seemed to love it back then. And it was kind of a cool shot. It was like super easy to do, not much effort, but you got the results you were looking for.
Yeah. Well, especially if it's on the either on the beat or if it's like an actual cut where it's like a jump cut, but like the second clip's in slow motion. Yeah, it looks good that way.
Yeah, the music helps. The thing is don't force slow motion. And a lot of people do. And the second you force it, that's when it's not going to work. That's when it's going to look a little weird in your video, or you're not going to be, you know, you ever look at an edit and you're like, oh, something's off. Well, sometimes that's what it is. It's using slow motion at the right time. And it only comes with practice. You know, I mean, I have a lot of videos where I never ever use slow motion. And then I have other videos where I use a lot of slow motion because the music allows me or the moment allows me. And that's kind of part of the learning curve. Like it's something you have to figure out for your own because there is no real right or wrong. It's all perception.
So what's your perception? Is it based mostly on the music, or is there more other reasons why you would use slow motion?
I feel like there's other reasons. One is you as a shooter can relate to this. Sometimes when you shoot footage, you feel attached. You feel attached to this footage. You know, there's clips that you don't want to get rid of, or there's a clip that you want to use in your video and it just doesn't fit, right? So I feel like when I shoot the footage and I know the stuff, I want to maybe stretch it out a little bit more, show the extra work I did. Where if you sent me your clips, I'm just going to be like, boom, 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 edit, assemble, and that's it. So I feel like when I feel attached to the clip, maybe I give it a little more attention and maybe I'll use a little more slow motion in that because it's a more a me thing. But when I'm doing it for a client, then I try to have no emotion. I just try and do the sensible thing, go with the flow of the story I'm trying to tell. Because even though it's a highlight reel with speed ramping and slow motion, then I am still trying to tell a bit of a story. Whether it's even in that play, you know, I'll look at it like this guy has the ball. He's got to get to 10-yard line. I'm going to show the efforts of the slow motion and the speed ramp when he finally gets there. I'll try and work it into the story that I'm trying to tell. And hopefully my sound effects, my music goes with that too. Does that answer that? Or because it is really hard. Like I love watching a good slow motion clip, but I don't love putting slow motion in all my videos. Because I
It's
feel like it
lazy.
is. No, it's lazy, but I feel like it's overdone a lot too. And especially with reels, it gets tricky because everybody wants speed. Like I'm trying to show as many shots as I can in a certain amount of time. I got 3 seconds to grab someone's attention, so it's hard. Like try starting a video on a reel with a slow motion shot. It's tough. People are scrolling, so it's like you got to go fast, 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 and then slow it down. And
Mm.
that's where the expertise come in. That's when knowing your audience, that's when knowing the story you're telling comes into effect.
Yeah,
What
no, that
about
makes
you? Like,
sense.
how do you attack it? Because on like you're very, very good in I know you mentioned basketball before, but in your basketball sequences, you're very, very good at slowing down, speed ramping, real time, back to slow motion. So like, what's your process? What are you in that segment? So say if it's a guy crossing half court, he pulls up, hits a three, celebrates to the crowd. How are you kind of attacking those moments? Like that one shot, break it down into slow motion, speed ramp, real time.
Yeah, well, it's like I was saying earlier. It's like I'll just focus on the times that are visually interesting and speed through the times that are not. So if he's pulling up, I'm at full speed until he starts like getting up to shoot. And that part of him like getting into the stance and shooting is going to be in slow motion. As soon as the ball moves on from like leaves his hand, that's going to go back to full speed even faster. Uh, Maybe slow it down as it hits the net and then speed ramp back to him or just cut back to him, to be honest, because that transition is not going to look that great. But once we're back on him and he's making like threes or just a face or whatever, then we might slow that down again one more time. And ideally, if I'm lucky, I get that reaction, and then the camera kind of moves in one direction, probably towards, where they're going on the defensive end. And as my camera is moving in that way, I can find another clip of action that has that same intro movement, so I can speed way up the speed of that camera movement, so make it like exaggerate it so that it just like it looks like a pan basically, and then a whip pan on the beginning of the other clip as well, that by speeding up that camera movement. So what I'm getting at is that, yeah, you'll get kind of a whip pan, with directional blur, motion blur, sort of all baked in, natural, real sort of motion blur coming from an actual camera movement, and that transition kind of scene, it looks completely seamless. So that's the ideal situation. Obviously, you don't always get those camera movement happening exactly at the right time and in the right direction, and with the clip that you wanted to put in your edit having the exact same thing at the beginning. So like it's hit and miss, and when it does happen, you feel very lucky, and you feel like you're the best editor in the world. And when you're looking for it and you've been looking for an hour, like all your clips, to see if you can find one that matches perfectly, and you don't, then you're very frustrated and you feel like you just wasted your time. But yeah, I've just basically went through all the different scenarios.
Okay, but look, you have that shot and you want that whip pan, right?
Mm.
So as you're filming it, if you think of that, like, hey, this would be a great shot to slow down. Oh, I got to find a cool transition. So purposely set up a whip pan after or later on that day.
Yes.
Like as you get better and as you keep filming these things, you will add that whip pan to your list of shots that you want to capture that day.
Yeah.
But
The
the first
tricky
time you
part,
go, yeah,
though, is knowing when to do it, though. Because, like, if you're
yeah,
filming a reaction, it's like, how long do I hold that shot before I move on? So, because you don't really know how long you're gonna hold it in the edit. And I guess, like, with that, the speed ramp helps for that. Because, like, if you hold it for too long, maybe you play it a bit faster, and vice versa. So but yeah, sometimes you just get, well, I know I do. I get caught up in the moment. I just stick to the player, and by the time I move on, it's just like way too long after. And if I try to speed it up, you can see like more shakes, because it's just, I'm handheld, and it's like it looks good at 40% speed, but at like 200% speed, it looks a bit weird. So it's like, so yeah, it's finding those right moments. Same thing with like a basket. Like if I don't go back to the player, the ball goes in. Ideally, what I'd love to do is just keep that camera movement, like basically, because I'm coming in a downward motion. I should just, well, not that I should, but I like to just keep going, and then I can find another, because it doesn't have to always be the same movement at the beginning of the clip. But as long as you got two kind of whipping kind of movements, one at the end, one at the beginning, it can always kind of work. So I kind of like to finish that motion, but often I don't, because your reflex is just to basically stop where the basket is. So sometimes I do like make a whip after, but it's a bit light, it's a bit delayed, and it doesn't work as well. Or the issue also is starting with a whip, because I can, let's say I'll whip to the point guard, but if the point guard dribbles for like 10 seconds, that's just useless. So it's like it's hard to whip right before something interesting happens. So it's probably the whip at the start that's a lot harder to do at the right time than the one at the end.
but can we talk about when you do find that proper whip in your edit and you're like, oh my God, I got it. How good
Yeah.
is that feeling? Because there are
Oh yeah.
times where you just get lucky, right? And
Yeah.
you're like, oh my God, thank God I got that clip. Because I've gone back to, sometimes you open up an edit days after and you kind of forget what everything you filmed and you're looking for that whip or that perfect shot to transition. You're like, oh yes, I have it. That it's like striking gold. You're like,
Yeah.
oh man, yes, I have it. I did a
Well,
good job today.
yeah. Well, that whip at the start, honestly, most often than not, it's coming from a pass. Basically, I was filming a guy who passed it to another guy, and then that guy scored. So I'm gonna sacrifice him and just start my clip in the middle of that pass where I'm transitioning to that guy getting the ball and then scoring. And that's going to be my kind of camera whip at the start.
So what you described, right? You're basically using that motion
Mm.
to display emotion.
Yeah.
What do you think? Like, no, right? That's the
Oh
idea
yeah,
of
you
it.
should be a rapper.
That's it, man. You see that? See that?
The next Eminem right
As I
here.
was saying in my head, it started rhyming. I'm like, this is perfect, man. This is perfect.
Put that at the start of the video.
There you go. There you go. Anyway, the whole idea of this, like what you just explained, though, is use the different speeds to your advantage to tell your story and to give you the best possible clip. Because if I just give you that segment where the guy dribbles from half court, pulls up, pulls a three, reacts to the crowd, it's okay. It's probably still a nice shot. But when you add sound, sound effects, the speed ramping, the slow motion, that's when you feel it. That's when it becomes goes from a good clip to a great clip. Yeah.
Just like this video.
That's it. Is there any before we wrap up? Is there any transition tricks you think that enhance that? So obviously there's sound effects, but like you mentioned motion blur before, you add on to motion blur obviously in some of those aspects, or what
Well,
other
not
kind of?
necessarily. If we're doing the actual like camera whips that we just talked about, they don't need to be to add more motion blur. I think I would add some. Well, sometimes you can, but like, I mean, I would add some if I'm trying to fake that camera whip. If it's like something, especially if I'm doing like a vertical video, therefore have got room on each side to kind of fake a camera pan. So I sometimes I might do that, but like it annoys me because it doesn't look as natural. Like it never like really does look as natural. But like if one clip has that camera movement and the other clip doesn't, but it really goes like well with the clip before, then I might fake it on that second clip and then I'll add like a bit of directional blur just to make it a bit more seamless. But yeah, I think the transitions are usually at full speed, if not way faster, and it's the actual middle of that clip, the content, the reason why it's here. That's the part that'll be in slow motion.
Okay, there you go.
Well, for me, anyway.
The only other thing I would add is some crowd noise actually for some of those things, like some sound effects, beat drops. You can add like a quick riser too, depending. But just some little sound adjustments definitely make that clip that we've already kind of explained go a long way.
Yeah, and you can play with the music too, like whether it's like maybe not slowing it down, but like adding like a low pass or something to make it sound a bit more like it's muffled or underwater. It goes well with like a slow down because it's the equivalent in the music or audio of like visually slowing down something. It kind of feels the same way, so it goes well together.
The only thing I would say is when using slow motion, think of the intent and how your effect works. And that's what kind of helps me when to use slow motion and when not to. You have one? Any tip?
No, I agree. I think it was perfect. The only thing that would have made this even more perfect is if it would have rhymed like that line earlier.
I wrote one down
Oh,
to end it on, but it's not a rhyme. Real time equals hype. Slow motion equals emotion. There you go.
there is a rhyme.
There you go.
No, that's true.
All right. Well, that's it for this episode of Game Day, Claire. Take care.